Have you seen Kostas' message? That he's in the attendees and should be promoted to panelist.
We see him on both, both as panelist and as seems that he's depending on the. I think now that's Kostas.
Yes, good morning.
Hey, long time.
Or good afternoon.
And yeah, you look younger.
How are you doing?
Good, and you?
A long time no see, eh?
Unfortunate, but now we are lucky to have you with us, even virtually. So I'm just wanted to welcome you specifically and the other speakers, and I will leave you with the chair of the session, Abdullahi. So Abdullahi, it's your role to take. I think
great.
You need 2 minutes to start, Abdullahi, so that we have start on time.
We'll start in 2 minutes time.
Yes, exactly. So the floor is yours now.
Okay.
Willie, should I, do you have my presentation or should I share it myself?
You will share the presentation yourself.
Okay, let me close the other windows. I have too many here.
But before we start, I wanted to share with you.
If you like us to share, Kostas, if you like us to share your slides, we can do that.
No, it's okay. I think it's okay, unless it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then I'll tell you.
Okay, we are ready by all means.
Yeah, so before we start, I wanted to share with you some housekeeping message about the timing. Each of the panelists will have 10 minutes to present and 3 minutes for Q&A. Any questions that might go beyond the 3 minutes time slot will be scheduled for the end of the session. And yeah, so I think we can start now. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, my name is Abdullahi. I'm the chair of this session. It's my pleasure that I'm sharing this session with the title Open Science and Open Access, which is a topic that is very dear to me and to a lot of people because it signifies freedom. It signifies the importance of having equal access to resources. And I see it as a future for, cutting down the gap between the developed and least developed. Access to information and knowledge is power. I would like to share with you a little update regarding the topic in Somalia. I'm very happy that we are at least taking some steps towards open access and open knowledge. We have an open knowledge society. That's a chapter of the Open Knowledge Foundation in Somalia now, and they are promoting the concepts and the principles of open access and open science. We are also, as SomaliREN, working on implementing our first national level digital repository, which will adapt and adopt the principles of open access. I would like to start this session by inviting the first speaker, Mr. Kostas Glinos. Mr. Kostas has worked at the European Commission, where he leads the unit in charge of open science in the Directorate General for Research and Innovation since the 1st of June in 2019. Dr. Kostas has been very much involved with the research, regional research and education networking scene. He has been very instrumental in the formation and the startup of the ASREN, the Arab States Research and Education Network. I would like to invite to our e-podium, Mr. Kostas. Please welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be with you, and I haven't been in an ASREN event for quite a few years, so it is my big pleasure to come back and to see several very familiar faces. So I will talk to you about the open science agenda in the Commission and about the European Open Science Cloud. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Would you like us to share?
Strange that it doesn't, the PowerPoint doesn't show on my.
So if you like, we can have shared from our side, and you just instruct us to move slides. Is that okay with you?
Yes, please, if you have them ready.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Adia.
Yes, that's it. Okay, next slide, please. So I will talk to you about the open science policy at the European Union and what is the rationale and the challenges, how we apply this in Horizon Europe. This is a very topical subject because we are preparing now the new framework program in Europe for the next 7 years to start next year in 2021. On that occasion, I'll tell you a little bit about also a new publishing platform that we are launching. The European Open Science Cloud, as announced earlier, also in connection to the COVID-19 research data. And finally, 2 words about reforming the research assessment system. Next one. So some introductory words. Why do we need open science and what is it? So in a nutshell, open science is about sharing. It's about sharing tools, sharing data, sharing knowledge in general, between scientists, between researchers, but also between disciplines, which is far more difficult because different disciplines often speak different languages, have different terminologies. And also, and very importantly, sharing between science and society, which is essential to cultivate the trust of society in the science system. We see a lot of discussion in the press nowadays because of the vaccines, but it's not a new topic. It's a topic that is there for centuries almost. So why do we do this? Why do we want to open up science, open up all the outputs, all the results of science? We do it not only for let's say ideological reasons, but we do it because we think that, and we have evidence that open science is better science. So open science increases the quality of the research outputs, increases significantly the efficiency of research. In other words, with a given amount of money, the amount of impactful results that you produce, and increases the productivity of research. It increases also creativity, because especially through to the interdisciplinarity that it enables, includes creativity because you are able to combine knowledge from different domains. And we know that a lot of the innovations arise at the interfaces between different disciplines and domains. And as said before, it increases the trust of society onto the science system by engaging researchers and citizens together, either to design projects or to participate, citizens to participate in carrying out research projects. Next one, please. So what are the main challenges and the priorities? So we have some areas in which we have been working for the past years, some of them many years, some others are quite recent. So one of them is open access, ensuring that publications funded by public money are openly accessible. This is an area that is a long-standing policy for more than 10 years, but the progress has been slow. We see an acceleration very recently. It is about, we are working in the early sharing of other research outputs than publications, such as software, models, data sets. And thirdly, we work on data management, and we want all data and all research outputs, actually, not just data, but also, let's say, software or algorithms to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is what the acronym FAIR means. So we're dealing here with research data management. We are working on the reproducibility of results. Some of you may have seen articles in the press showing that a significant fraction of research results papers have conclusions that are not replicable, that are not reproducible, and therefore, and this is not all publications, all journals. I mean, we are talking also the very most prestigious ones, as well as the others, that often they produce articles that the results cannot be verified and reproduced, which is damaging in several respects. And we are also working on societal engagement and responsibility. Now, to do this, to work on this area, we need also to develop proper enablers. So we are working on 3 additional areas in the area of rewards and incentives for open science practices. Nothing or not much of the open science agenda will be realized, will become mainstream, unless the researchers and those who engage in open science are rewarded for it. This is true for any aspect of human endeavor. But the system today does not reward open science practices, at least the system in most places around the world, because there are some places that really make a difference today, and they revolutionize the system by which they assess researchers, research and research institutions. But in most places, what counts for a researcher is that you bring money to the university, is one thing, but the main thing is that you publish in high impact factor journals, so in very prestigious journals. It doesn't matter what you published, it matters that you do publish in these journals, which is a little bit strange or crazy even to consider that where you publish is more important than what you publish. But this is how the system is today. And unless the system changes, then science, who can make some progress maybe, but science cannot really open up. So this is something that we engage now. The next year is the year where we'll take major initiatives. Secondly, we need to provide the infrastructures, including the e-infrastructures, on which open science can function. For example, the infrastructures, you cannot work with data, open data, unless you can locate this data, unless you have access to this data. You need the technical part of the system to be put in place. We're working on this, and we are working also on developing the appropriate skills for open science and for data management. Next one, please. So now let me come to the Horizon Europe program. How does the program change? Some of you, or many of you, have, I think, participated in the past in the program. Regarding open science, we started timidly in 2008 by having an open access pilot to publications coming out of the FP7 at that time, which then we made it mandatory. We mainstreamed it, and then in 2014, open access became mandatory. But we had embargoes, so open access could be provided 6 or 12 months after the publication to respect the request by publishers. Then in 2017, We had also we made by default data open. So open research data and data management plans became mandatory. And now in the new program next year, we are planning to go an extra step further, a big step further, which basically is first mainstreaming open science across the program, not only for regarding open access, but mainstreaming it means that proposers in their proposal will have to describe some elements of open science. It will be evaluated as part of the excellence criterion. So more open science approaches will result in better quality science. We have a number of provisions included in the model grant agreement. So in the contract that beneficiaries sign with us, we oblige them to have open access to publications and a number of provisions for data where we need to have data as open as possible, as close as necessary. In reporting, similarly, there will be provisions for reporting on open science practices. So in the entire program, we mainstream open science. Very importantly, regarding publications, we go now to born open publications. So no embargoes. Anything you publish needs to be open upfront, either in either in open access journal or by the so-called green route. Next one, please. So how many minutes do I have left? Or how much time?
It's already up. You are using the 3 minutes for the Q&A.
Already using the 3 minutes. Okay, I thought that I had to speak for up to 15 minutes. Okay, then go on in the first slide about EOSC, and then you can look. Please advance the slides. Yep, more, further, further. Okay, and then let me say a word about EOSC. EOSC, as I said, is the European Open Science Commons or European Open Science Cloud. Depends, people use both denominations. It is a data infrastructure, essentially, to support open science by developing a so-called web of fair data and related services for science. So it is not a new system. It's a set of rules. It's a set of standards. And it is relying on a federation of existing data infrastructures and a federation of repositories through which you will be able to find far more easily than today, access and reuse data, and data in the broad sense, digital objects. It may not be data numbers, but it can be software. It can be any other research object anywhere around the world. This is a European effort, but we are working closely with a number of partners across the world, because of course scientists, they want to work with their peers and with the resources wherever they are in the world, and not just in their own country. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Kostas. I'm sorry for cutting you short.
That's okay. Yeah.
We are going to move to the next session. I would like to welcome Ognjen Prnjat to take the floor. Mr. Prnjat is a PhD and holds the position of Director of European Infrastructures and Projects at the GRNET. In this role, he is responsible for the overall GRNET's involvement in the pan-European and worldwide infrastructures, including networking, cloud, and high-performance computing. Please welcome Mr. Prnjat. Dr. Prnjat, sorry.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you see my screen. Is that in order, Mr. Chair, the screen? I suspect it is, so I will go ahead. Can you just give me a confirmation, please, that the screen is visible?
We see you, Ognjen.
Yes,
You don't
yes.
see the screen.
We can see the screen.
Yes, we can see
I mean
the
the
slides.
presentation. This is
Yeah,
what I mean.
the
Yeah?
slides. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for ASREN to invite me yet again to one of your events. It's always a pleasure to be in this community with colleagues and friends. And it is a pleasure also to talk after Kostas, who has been involved such a long time in service provisioning management activities for by the Commission for the research and education, and then now in the open science arena as well. So it is a pleasure to continue this talk. And I think that this talk flows in nicely after that one of Kostas. He, in his closing slide, has shown the European Open Science Cloud vision. I will quote directly from the Commission's communication on European Cloud Initiative. The vision of 1.7 million European researchers and 70 million professionals in science and technology having been provided a virtual environment with a free at the point of use, open, seamless services for storage, management, analysis, reuse of research data across borders and scientific disciplines. And this European Open Science Cloud, where this sharing environment supporting open science is created, in my opinion, also should be open to the world as well. And I think the Commission also supports that vision, and definitely to the region of ASREN as well. So it is absolutely timely and relevant to speak about this topic of European Open Science Cloud also in this forum of ASREN. The Commission is co-funding a number of projects in Europe, which are covering different regions, and I'll show you a couple of regions, so Central Europe and again Southern and Europe, Northern Europe, and Southeast Europe. 4 different projects which cover the European space, and in common endeavor to support the governance of European Open Science Cloud and to provide more services to researchers through this European Open Science Cloud. So this particular initiative, one of the 4, and they have similar missions and similar goals and similar structure, let's say. One of these projects is the Southeast European one, which I am coordinating myself, which brings together 22 partners from 15 countries in the region in this common endeavor. And on this slide, you can see the partners which are involved. 15 countries in the region. It is quite a big consortium that brings together operators for services for research and technology, these kinds of partners, and the partners which also support open science communities and infrastructure. So we bring together these partnership building blocks in a common endeavor to support the governance of European Open Science Cloud and to provide services to it. So our mission is to support the development and inclusion of the national open science cloud initiatives in these 15 member states and associated countries to the EOSC governance. The second pillar is to support the spread of EOSC and FAIR principles in the community and to train the community in EOSC and FAIR. And the final pillar is to provide technical and policy support for concrete onboarding of existing and future service providers into EOSC. This is just a schematic diagram showing how the project is organized with different activities to support these 3 major goals. We are currently in the 3rd of the project duration, so we have accomplished the starting activities, as you can see in this diagram. These activities are accomplished by different work packages. I will not get into the detail regarding the organization, but I will dwell a little bit on the first activity which we carried out, which is the Open Science Survey in the region. So we carried out the most extensive attempt to capture the state of the open science approaches in the region of Southeast Europe. We have drafted a comprehensive questionnaire, and we have compiled an extensive list of stakeholders and organizations from Southeast Europe to answer to this survey, and it has been carried out. More than 1,000 stakeholders have been approached, and more than 500 have actually answered and completed this survey. So we have provided like a map, interactive map, which you can access through this link shown on the slide here, to see what is the current situation regarding the services, the policies, and different aspects of open science in this region. And the first set of data is deposited in Zenodo, also available on this link, and you can see the stakeholder map and the survey results on the links provided in this slide. It is a comprehensive snapshot of this state of the open science in the region. And actually, in the ASREN region, a survey has been made based on this survey that we have carried out, that is customized for the region of ASREN, target region. And you have also compiled within that region yourselves and collected the data and compiled this data, I believe, very recently. And we would be very interested to analyze together with you this data and provide also some guidelines and suggestions regarding the open science initiatives in ASREN region. The second activity we have been carrying out is to define how things can be more organized on the national level regarding the open science, promote the synergies on the national level, optimize and articulate the participation from the national level to European initiatives. We have come up with this concept of National Open Science Cloud Initiative, where we're looking to bring together the stakeholders from each country together in a coherent national initiative. We have different approaches to forming these initiatives. I will not go into detail about this here. So what kind of services then we could onboard to European Open Science Cloud to be used across borders and for the researchers to be able to complete their full life cycle of research through the use of these services. So these services could be data processing services such as HPC resources or cloud virtual machines, generic storage resources, data management services for archival, repository of data, data discovery, Hadoop kind of analytics, and other kind of analytics, and just simple storage as well. So these are the types of services, let's say hard services that researchers might need, generic services that researchers might need to compute, find, store data, analyze data. Then we can have services which are more thematic services, which fall into different thematic categories of research, which are customized for a particular research direction. So this could be, for our examples that we have onboarded in the process of onboarding to EOSC, for example, the ChemBio service, which is a service for filtering, clustering, and visualization of chemical compounds in drug discovery. This could also be used and has been used, I think, in COVID research. From the humanities, we have a application which is called Clouder, a service which is called Clouder, which is a digital cultural heritage repository, which has also visualization tools. Then we have, for example, from climate research, we have Live Access Server, which is a web server providing flexible access to georeferenced scientific data, offering visualization and post-processing capabilities for this climate data. So these are just examples of thematic services that can be and will be onboarded to EOSC. Then, of course, there are repositories, and within the region, we have identified the number of repositories which should be fared and provided, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data in these repositories available to the researchers in the Open Science Cloud. So we have identified more than 45 repositories for certification and inclusion in the Open Science Cloud in Europe. In order to onboard the services, we have to check them first for their let's say quality with different levels. We have the technology maturity levels, we have management maturity levels, and so on. But we have a pre-production environment which we use in order to onboard the services, to check these services before they're mature enough to get onboarded to EOSC. This slide depicts that. I will not get into much more detail. Of course, there are also a number of policies which are required to be followed in order to onboard the services into European Open Science Cloud, to have them available and accessible by European researchers and beyond, hopefully. So these policies are also followed, and we have helped identify these policies also ourselves. And then we have another line of action that we've been carrying out, which is how to support incentives for supporting open research data management affairs. I think that Kostas has mentioned in his opening speech as well, how to provide incentives to the researchers to work within this open science environment. We have been also looking at data repository integration and fair compliance guidelines. So if you want to provide your repository and the data in it within Open Science Cloud, you should be following certain certification schemes to make sure that this data is fair and the repository itself. And also we've been developing and mapping different tools for Open Research Project website and have a look how things work. Then we have an activity on also promoting within all the countries EOSC and FAIR principles. And we have a network of people who are engaging the community in the countries in the local language to support the open science philosophy. We call them ambassadors, yeah, and the promoters in per country that we have identified. We also have a strong training campaign, and we are training the trainers in different countries in order for them to be able to then hierarchically spread these principles of European Open Science Cloud in the countries themselves. And I would hereby like also to invite the ASREN community and staff, especially who is involved in training, to attend our trainings, and so also to get acquainted with this, so that you can further promote these principles in your communities. And then we have a typical set of actions where we are providing the communication, marketing, and innovation management. These are the links you can access to access our calendar about the events, our website, Twitter, and Facebook, and the rest of social media too. We have been involved. We have organized already a number of seminars, a number of dissemination events as well, which are a little bit more difficult to support during the COVID crisis due to this lack of face-to-face interaction. But we are handling this over also virtually. And also the final important thing that I would like to mention in this talk is the involvement in COVID-19 response. This has been very active, and we have provided fast access to our services, tools, and software for the scientific communities dealing with COVID research. These are some numbers. I will not get into them, but to close, I would just like to say that we would like to further support this surveying activity as we did in open science in the region of ASREN. We can help you on raising awareness on open science, and we can invite you to our trainings in EOSC FAIR topics. And we can also help you identify potential services that you can bring from your region to include into the European Open Science Cloud, and the repositories that you might want to FAIR, and we can support you with the different guidelines to do this. So yes, we are open for collaboration and eager to help the region. Thank you. I'm sorry if I have overrun this slot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prnjat, for an informative presentation, and also for the offer to support the community with regards to promoting open access. In the Q&A session, I don't see any questions, so we need to proceed to the next session. And if there are any questions, maybe we can ask towards the end of the session. Next is Dr. Salem Alagtash. Dr. Salem will be talking about ASREN survey on open science and cloud needs. Dr. Salem is a professor of computer engineering and a co-managing director at the Arab States Research and Education Network. His research and technical expertise covers the areas of energy, education, science, infrastructure, ICT, and institutional development. Please help me welcome Dr. Salem to the virtual podium.
Thank you so much, Abdullahi. It's a great pleasure to see you all in this panel. And thanks for your great contributions. The presentations of Kostas and Ognjen has been great, and we're looking forward for further collaboration. I mean, the purpose of my presentation today is to provide some guidance or let's say presentation on what we have been doing in the Africa Connected 3 project, specifically on the component of the cloud infrastructure. Africa Connected 3 project is a European Commission funded project that covers the African continent with partners representing 3 clusters. So we are on a cluster 3 representing the Northern African countries. And we have our colleagues from Open Internet Alliance and from WACRN. And we're working together with GRNET, which is the European Research and Education Network regional for the whole European region. As any projects funded by the European Commission, it's divided into work packages. So one of the work package that we're working on is infrastructure that includes not only just enhancing connectivity, but also to provide cloud services. So for us to be able to understand what is it that we want to do for the cloud services, we put together a comprehensive survey with the support from Ognjen and many other colleagues. And we launched this survey and we collected the data that I'm going to present now and give you a little bit of insights on what is our plan. Now you can see this is a cloud survey and then it says it's an open science cloud. The perspective that I'm going to talk about here is about the cloud and how are you going to implement the cloud. But then there is the other perspective, which is the open science, which Kostas and Ognjen have been presenting, and those are great initiatives. So we'll have a little bit of more synergies to work together on these perspectives. So for the cloud survey, we had 71 responses from institutions, and the main highlights for the survey that there is quite a good research collaboration in the countries involved in the African continent. So mainly research collaboration is within the African region, with Europe, with North America, with Asia. So, I mean, this is reality. Researchers, they always collaborate. And so it goes without saying that research collaboration is beyond boundaries. But there has been some emphasis on the research collaboration. And if you want to do research collaboration, we need infrastructures, not only connectivity, but also services, applications, and also repositories that we can access. The survey has also indicated that research has some goal mainly on publication. Some of the research institutions, authors are using cloud-based solutions mainly for dissemination, but there has not been any kind of identity federation that identifies the access to these repositories and cloud-based solutions. And the factors that for research equality is mainly, where do you publish? Mainly high quality journals. Some of the drivers for research is also to create more project participation, solicit external funding and involve the students and make some collaboration with the industry. But there is a little on the business spin-offs from this research as an output. There has also been some components that we also asked on the survey that talks about digital repositories. And so there has been a strong interest in Thomson Reuters access, as well as open access repositories. Some interest in IEEE databases, IEEE Explorer, on Science Direct, Web of Science, and Research for Life. So those are kind of repositories. There has been some interest in the institutions that have responded to the survey, but that organizations, a good percentage of them, they create their own publication repository. So mainly, authors who publish in journals, they can keep some copies or maybe some, thesis and projects, all kinds of publications that are kept locally on the institutions. We have seen some trends on the survey, mainly on cloud computing. So there isn't much of a knowledge in the communities about the open science cloud. So we have to work on promoting this. And thanks, Ognjen, for your offer that we can do some dissemination and training for the open science cloud. There has been a strong interest in the public cloud, mainly for the use of the students and faculty members. Institutions have their own private cloud, mainly for storage and launching their websites, email, DNS services, creating some virtual machines that they can do some computation locally on the institutions. But on the perspective of a public cloud, the interests are on the Google Cloud because it's more common. You can get the services on Google. It's been de facto for many services on the public cloud in comparison to AWS and Microsoft Azure and Oracle Cloud. In terms of installation implementation, so OpenStack and VMware are the technologies that are very common in open cloud, as well as using cloud applications like Office 365, Google Docs, and Adobe Acrobat and MATLAB. Some interests in high performance computing, GRET computing, and also the use of cloud virtual machines. E-learning is becoming an interest in many institutions, but there has not been much of a preference. So we know now Moodle is an open source technology that is used for learning management systems along many other learning systems. In terms of network services, there is a strong interest to have access to high-speed internet, use of IPv6, open exchange for research and education, cybersecurity, edu-ROM, edu-gain. These are kinds of services that have been interests. Because this is a project that we're working on along with our partners in Africa, WACRN and Open Internet Alliance, we wanted to understand how are the funding mechanisms for the cloud usage, any kind of service usage within institutions. So we have seen that there has been some budgets allocated by institutions in the range of tens of thousands for journal subscriptions, scientific publications, some grad cloud computing, network development and services, and high performance computing. And so we wanted to work with the ASREN communities so that we can champion, so that they can be champions, to liaison with the organizations that we can use these funding and budgets to create more of economies of a scale for cloud infrastructures and services. So we wanted to lead this public cloud at the regional level. And we have some co-funding from the European Commission and the AfriConnect 3 project, which is about 550,000 euros. We have started with some initial phase of implementation again, so thanks for the European Commission for facilitating activities on the infrastructure as well on the cloud. So with the AfriConnect 2 project, we were able to establish our data center in giant premises in Slough in the UK, in the United Kingdom. So we installed our POP, point of a presence, that makes the interconnection with Giant and Internet 2 and many other regional research education networks. We also expanded to set up 2 rack servers. Mainly one is for application as an application server, and the second one as an infrastructure server. And so we installed VMware, vSphere, hypervisor. We created our standalone software version, deployed some virtual machines to satisfy NOC requirements. So mainly Cacti and Zabbix kind of software that are used for NOC services. So we created a centralized, so at the end, because of some needs on the EduGain training, we created a centralized platform for controlling cloud environment to cope with this, as I said, with the hands-on training for EduGain, and to deploy and manage multiple virtual machines efficiently. So those are some snapshots from the cloud infrastructures that we have in our NOC in Slough in the UK. Now, the next phase of implementation that we want to procure extra hardware to expand on the private cloud infrastructure, and mainly our focus on this private extra hardware is to provide more virtual machines to our communities. So that might create some kind of economies of a scale. So they do not have, Andrews do not have to create their own infrastructure, so we can make this available for them. The second component is to procure public cloud. So because of the preference of Google Cloud, so it's very possible that we can work with Andrews to create more subscriptions in Google Suite, mainly for email, storage, docs, and Google Docs, and so on, and to create some video conferencing tools like Google Meet and other educational tools, as well as Google Virtual Machines as an extension. We know that now with this pandemic, there is a strong interest in the video conferencing. Zoom has become a de facto, but I know that Giant funded European Commission, they're also leading another video conferencing initiative, which is EduMeet. So we would like to be part of these initiatives to give it to our communities. Because of the digital repositories are important aspects of science and research, so we wanted to try to create more of collaboration for digital repositories, explore open access repositories because that's for free. But there are some repositories that have to pay some subscription, just like IEEE Explore, Science Direct, Web of Science. So we might be working with these repositories to make them available for our communities, as well as to explore collaboration with Research for Life, another repository, and other community-targeted repositories. As Ognjen has said, they have done a survey and identified repositories, so those are also might be of interest for us to make them accessible to our communities. As well as to create more of a cloud-based applications and services like learning management systems, or maybe some other like MATLAB or maybe Canvas as another type of learning management systems, and to provide federation authentication through the Africa IDP, which is another activity that WACRN is leading for the EC3 project. So with this, I conclude my presentation, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salem. I would like to remind the participants that the Q&A box is available. If anyone has a question, please share your question so that the panelists can respond to. Moving on to the next presentation, I would like to welcome Rawia Awadallah, who will be talking about towards national research information management systems in Palestine. Rawia.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Dr.
Okay.
Rawia is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Information Technology at the Islamic University of Gaza since 2013 and has been the Vice Dean of Scientific Research since 2019. Dr. Rawia, please take away the floor.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much. Sorry, I have a problem with. Okay. It's not working. I just can't move the slides. Okay. Thank you again for the invitation. I'm glad to be part of this interesting event. Before I start, I would like to give you a short introduction or background about the higher education institutions in Palestine. So higher education in Palestine actually started as a 2 years colleges in 1950s. It is only in 1970s universities came to existence. In 1994, Ministry of Higher Education was established in Palestine as a result of Oslo Agreement. Currently, we have about 53 higher education institutions. They can be universities, university colleges, or polytechnics, or community colleges. So back to I just can't move my slides. I don't know why. Maybe I should stop sharing.
If I could suggest, maybe by mistake you're looking at the screen of the Zoom itself. You should be inside your own presentation,
Okay.
in a separate window of the presentation, and you go down inside the presentation, not inside the Zoom view of the presentation. Maybe this is the problem. I don't know.
Let me, Dr. Rawia, we can share the screens from our side if you like, and you can just ask us to forward. If you have any problem, just let us know.
Okay, now is it okay? Okay, I think it's fine.
It's not.
Yes.
We can't see your slides.
You cannot see the slides?
So yes, Hadia will share the slides from her side. Just tell her next. Is that okay with you?
Yes, I shared with her. Yes. Okay, it's fine. So I finished. Okay, go please to the next slide. Okay, this is okay. As I mentioned, that research activities in Palestine started early by 1950 or maybe earlier. Back to a few years ago, and after all these years of research activities in Palestine, one expects to find clear answer for such questions. For example, number of researchers, number of active researchers, organization, research activities, number of publications, their types, how to access them, and all these questions presented in the slides. Unfortunately, this is not the case. It is not strange that research activities reporting agency like UNESCO issued a report putting Palestine at the bottom of list in terms of publication trends, publication intensity, and also citation rates. This is because of, next slide please. This is because of the lack of awareness about open access. And as a result, our research is invisible, and especially Arabic language publications are indexed in unindexed journals. Also, absence of research information management in many local institutions. And as a result, we don't have statistics about researchers, organizations, projects, patents, and so on. At both local level and national level, we don't have open access mandates and policies for research information management. It is important to note here in Palestine, local research funding is not based on research activities. So actually, this is a problematic because many local universities here assume they will receive the fund regardless of their research activities, and therefore they don't really care about managing their research activities. So maybe I'm in slide 7 now. I should be in slide 7. Yes, okay, finished now, okay. So slide 7, please. Okay, okay, this one. Next one, please. Okay. In response to these limitations, as I mentioned, a number of initiatives worked in support of open access. The first one, please, this is an animation slide. Please click the first one. Yes. We have a project that started in 29 by the government. It is a government project, but this project went into unstable state. So it stopped and continues depending on the local political situation in Palestine. EIFL started their open access raising awareness series workshops and still working on this with us in finished project and also on future projects. We have also Open Med project, started in 2015 and finished in 2018. And they worked on facilitating adoption of open access educational resources. Rumor finished in 2019 and worked on facilitating adoption of open access institutional repositories in Palestine. We have a running project called PALLIB. They are working on a national library and research platform. They are willing to create a catalog for open access institutional repositories in local universities. Okay, next slide, please. The main outcomes of these initiatives is the creation of a developing open access environment in Palestine, which is good. We have currently more than 10 open access institutional repositories, 7 of them already listed on Open Door. We have more than 30 open access journals, 25 of them listed in ROAD. Unfortunately, none of them are listed in the DOJ Directory for Open Access Journals. Okay, so journals and open access institutional repositories in general are seen as a solution for low visibility difficulties with distribution, small number of subscribers, low circulation, insufficient finance, poor infrastructure, including ICT, low readability, and low citation impact. So back to the list of questions we were not able to answer a few years ago. Can we answer them by the end of 2020 after all these initiatives? I can say only partially we can answer these questions. Next slide, please. So what are the barriers for this? We don't have open access institutional repositories or journal systems at local or at all local universities here in Palestine. At the institutional level, we have technical challenges, we have also organizational challenges, and we have also shortage of library staff observed among Palestinian academic and research libraries. Again, at both institutional and national level, we lack policies, mandates on open access and open access research and on research management in general. Next slide, please. So the current picture here in Palestine, as you can see in this figure here, we have some institutions, good to have local infrastructure such as open access institutional repositories or open access journals. Researchers manage to deposit the research to these infrastructure, open access infrastructure, and public can see them. But most of the institutions, they have these information about the research activities, different research activities in local databases, which is unseen by the public. And the ministry, for example, when they ask for information from the local researchers and from the local institutions, they provide them with this information that they have. Also, it should be noted that also it's only part of the actual information in the universities. And again, the ministry store this in their local databases. Unfortunately, this database is up to date. It is not up to date and lack many information about the actual research activities in local universities. Next, please. So how do we see this actually here in Palestine? How we hope it should be. So we see this as, so this is so we see the data of the higher education as link entities of people, organization, project, research, output, and so on. And they are stored and accessed through a central research information management system. But how can we have such a nice picture? Please have a next slide. Again, next slide. So far, we don't have, I've mentioned national policies. We need national policies. Bottom-up initiatives so far were good. But Ministry of Higher Education strategies, regulations, and laws help significantly at a national level. So Palestinian open access policy and research data management policy are needed, and they are important for creating legal obligations and also for enabling open access at every institution, and also for fostering organizational, informational, and technical development that allows interoperability and communication at all levels. Next, please. We need also portals for both journals and open access institutional repositories. Here, we need to make use of whatever already existing. This is to enable interoperability among existing systems so that they can communicate and exchange information. In particular, we need to have one access point to local journals and one access point to institutional repositories for better communication, of course, and more open access publishing. Next, please. There is also a need for national infrastructure for research data management, for research information management, for those, especially for those institutions with limited resources. We need a national level solution that enable establishment, setting up, maintenance of these systems at institution domain, leaving these institutions focus only on the content management away from the technical details. These systems allow storing and indexing information about linked entities and research outputs covering different types and multilingual with emphasis on Arabic language. Next, please. So this is our vision in road. This is a project co-funded by the European Commission, by the Erasmus Plus program. It should start in 2021. We are happy to be with partnership with very nice partners. We have the University of Minho, Bielefeld University, we have EIFL, we have TOVIN, we have local universities at Birzeit University and Al-Quds University and the Islamic University of Gaza. And most importantly, we have the ministry with us, and this is very, very important. Okay. So we will be working on developing the National Research Information Management Platform that connect and aggregate different components. And this is for improved RDM services and more effective open access management, more visibility, more transparency, and also for evolving the system over time. Next, please. So we see this as a puzzle, connecting different components together. So we have the National Resistant Identifier, DOI ORCID, for people, organization, and research outputs. We should have there the National Authentication and Authorization Infrastructure, the research management for institutions and their domains, setting up, a component for setting up the information system at the local domains. We have the research data repository that contains the data underlying a publication. So we have the aggregation component to a common and shared research information management system. We have the RDM National Desk for mandating and for putting policies on open access and on research data management. So next slide, please. So I've mentioned this already about the components. The next one, please. Yeah. So it's not trivial. So I'm at the end. This is my last slide. Yeah. Okay. So this is not trivial to do, and we have many questions. So how to collect the publications, which data model should we use, and how to deal with duplicates, how to deal with named entity disambiguation, and so on. How to organize academic and technical staff from 53 universities, and how much time and cost it will take. Next, please. So in summary, we are missing top-down initiatives. Bottom-up initiatives were good so far, but limited to some institutions. They were good in promoting open access in Palestine and managed to establish infrastructure for gold and green open access. The infrastructure at the national level will be very important and will be very effective. We still need support for open access in Palestine We need to collaborate with other existing projects and to be in partnership with international international project, and hopefully we will collaborate more intensively with the Ministry of Higher Education in the near future. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rawia. We have a few questions in the Q&A, but it is for other panelists. So what we would suggest is to compile all the questions towards the end of the session, but please keep the questions coming. I request the rest of the panelists who are going to present now to wrap up within 10 minutes so that we have enough time for a brief discussion. Next is Nabil Ksibi. Nabil is the engagement lead for the Middle East and Africa for ORCID. He's responsible for fostering ORCID community adoption in the Middle East and Africa. Please welcome Nabil to the podium.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abdullahi, and thank you very much, ASREN, for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me well, and sorry for the background noise. I just went out from home because electricity went off. So now I'm the nearest, let's say, internet spot. So I hope that you can see my screen and you can hear me well. Right, so in this presentation, on this couple of slides, I would like to get into what is ORCID, the researcher, why we have ORCIDs, and how to implement, let's say, ORCIDs as a e-infrastructure or open research infrastructure, let's say, basis or pillar. So it's very simple. ORCID came from a couple of questions. The most common of them, how can I write my name in different languages? And if I need to write, for example, my middle name, and how can I be recognized for my works, for my research, and for my publications, using my name, of course, and using a identification mean that is readable by machines and readable by computers in general. So as you can see here, even in Arabic, so these are the couple of questions that the researcher needs to ask themselves about. So how can I ensure I receive credit and recognition for all my contributions? Shouldn't be there a way to reduce time spent on, filling forms and administrative, requirements and reporting and paperwork and papers? And how can I maintain, for example, control and monitor my records of contributions in general? So the answer to all these questions is started from to be clear, starting from the ORCID registry in 2012, and which led to basically 10 million user and 10 million ORCID ID until today. I think more now. So what is ORCID? ORCID is a open global non-profit organization led and for the community. So everything that we are doing is inspired by the community. Our board of members is elected by the community, by our committee of members. And everything we do is axed or let's say strategized by the feedback of the community and the feedback of the users. So ORCID provides this unique identifier, which is free to use. and which is having a mission to reliably connect researchers with their researchers, contributions, affiliations, funding, and other works or other facilities. So this connection should be reliable and clear so that all the institutions, globally can benefit of this trustworthy connection and trustworthy link with their researchers. And then, of course, it should be free for the individual because at the end, it should be an open access, let's say, or open research tool to help communities and researchers to showcase and be more discoverable in terms of works and in terms of research. This is important to note that ORCID is not an author profile or an authority check system. We do only identity check when the user is losing access to their ORCID records. So at that time, we are asking the user to provide a passport or student card or driver license just to know and to grant back access to this user again. But at the end, we really trust the user and the researcher. So our first trust is at the researcher. We are putting the researcher under the control of their ORCID ID. So at the end, they are the only responsible of that record. Then ORCID provides open tools like the ORCID identifier, the registry, the APIs that allow transparent connections between researchers and identifiers of their activities and works and contributions. ORCID, in essence, this is the, let's say, the mission and vision of ORCID. So it provides a persistent digital identifier, which we call ORCID ID, that researcher owns and controls, and that distinguishes them from other researchers. And the researcher can connect their ORCID ID with their professional information, with affiliations, grants, publications, peer review, and more. And they can also use their ID to share all these kind of data and information about them with other systems, with other, let's say, institutions or other organizations, and then ensuring to get, let's say, recognition for all their contributions, saving them time and hassle, and reducing the risk of errors when typing in and entering information manually. And again, it's very important to say that the ORCID ID is free for the individual. Then why ORCID? So this is the main reason why we have this 16-digit identifier, is basically to disambiguate names and uniquely identify contributors. So I myself, my name is Nabil. I'm Nabil Ksibi. I can be in a work, I can be just publication. So it depends on that this dropping a bit. Yeah, I think it's back again. So sorry for the very bad. Okay, so I would carry on, and another reason why we do need ORCID. So basically, to others, as you can see here, this is at least an illustration that I found from PhD Comics, where a researcher is asking another friend what name should I use for my first publication? It's very important for me because it will be my author's name, and it will be like, yeah, the name that I will be known as in my career. And then the other friend just said that will it be increasing your impact factor, or will it be contributing to something in your career? Of course, so here the answer is to have like this digital way to identify researchers and digital mean, despite the fact that the name is also important, but the different writings of name can be added to the ORCID record. Here another reason why it's very important to adopt ORCID for the individual and institution. So ORCID individuals and their professional contributions across disciplines, organizations, and time, and we will see how the ORCID integration can participate in building this reason. It helps also research institutions, funders, and publishers and other organizations to better track and support research work. Also by the ORCID integration, this, let's say, asset will be available or is available to and all organizations to at least authenticate ORCID IDs. It also enables recognition of all types of research, contribution, and innovation. We will see that we can synchronize our works with, let's say, Crossref and other platforms, other research platforms like Crossref, like Scopus. We can also link our ORCID ID with Google Scholar by importing a BibTeX file. We can have a archive ID that we can insert in the work section in our ORCID record to synchronize our works, or if you have some preprints here and there, some in some archives. So it really, the use of the ORCID or synchronization of ORCID with other systems is very flexible. And many systems are benefiting on this, let's say, synchronization or link or connection of data between the ORCID API and these systems from different institutions. Now, how ORCID works. So first of all, ORCID is a registry of unique persistent identifiers for researchers. It's a hub that connects researchers with their contributions and activities and affiliations and many more. It is also a global community that enables researchers to share their data with other individuals, organizations, and systems. All of that is building ORCID and building what is ORCID, including the identifier, the community, the fact that it's hub, and the registry that the ORCID APIs are offering. Now, here's a very simple example of a researcher with a lot of works, research, writes and publishes, teaches, writings and publications, conferences, and a lot of works that are linked to this researcher. And then this researcher would like to present these works or present all these contributions to some kind of funders or even a promotion committee or sometimes a publisher. So here's the ORCID ID, let's say, gathering all these data and all this information in a way that it is machine readable, and it is linked to all different other platforms, even if these platforms are asserting a very specific type of data, like, I don't know, peer review, like research resources, like funding, or an invited position or distinction or recognition. So it really helped in building this kind of registry or kind of record for the researcher to present their work and present their contributions across time, discipline, and borders. This is again the interoperability, let's say,
Can you wrap up in 1 minute?
illustration, and where we are. Yeah. All right. Cool. So just a couple of slides, and I'm finishing. So the research is always at the center of all what we are doing. The university can collect and connect information from this ORCID ID. The same thing that the funder can do also by asserting grants and grant fundings, and collect also information from the ORCID records. The publisher as well can do the same by asserting publications and synchronizing publication, and also by collecting information while accepting the submission of the researcher. Here's the benefits of also the institution, some details benefit on the institution side and the researcher side. You can see here that it allows the researcher to spend more time doing research and less time in managing the research, and it gives the control of having an easy way to share the contributions and share affiliations, let's say, and all the assertions that they have on the ORCID record. On the other hand, it's also helps the institution in reducing errors when typing in information on systems, and also help in managing the organization name and maintain links with researchers past, present, and future. So quickly, I'm gonna jump. So this is the Connect and Connect workflow. You can find it on the ORCID webpage. This is for the institution. In general, we have multiple of them for the funder, for the publishers, and for different workflows. This is how institutions can grant connection and grant access to the ORCID record of the individual, whether it is university, funder, or publisher. Here, this is an example of harvesting, let's say, data and harvesting information, whether it is journal article, dissertation, or conference papers, and using this client ID for this integration for Northwest University in South Africa, for example. The next example is KAUST, King Saudi Arabia, and as you can see here, a couple of assertions from the KAUST repository, which they are using DSpace, and you can see here that they are harvesting more than one type of works. They are harvesting working papers, software, lecture speech, journal article, etc. This is very important to notice the importance of the authentication, but I'm gonna quickly jump into the example of the NREN. So quickly here, the ORCID Trust, as you can see here, it's based on the community responsibility, on the information integrity, and the individual control, and the reliable registry, of course. Of security that you can put on the or the privacy that you can put on the ORCID record. The green one is everyone can see your record, orange is trusted parties only, and green lock, which is visible only to me. And there's more on the articles if you want to read more about the ORCID and GDPR, let's say, relationship. These are the couple of national statements. On the right, you can see EOSC, which is the National Research Council in Turkey. They are mandating the use of ORCID starting from this date. It's very recent. While the NRF in South Africa, they're starting pushing for this, I think in 2017, with this mandate, let's say, encouraging or pushing researchers to use their ORCID IDs. This is the African. Yeah. So the last example would be, and I would like really to So tomorrow will be a workshop on ORCID, and I'll be also presenting a lot of information around this. So this is very important to notice that NRNs are having a very important role in conveying the message around ORCID. As you can see here, Tenet is the consortium lead in South Africa, ORCID consortium lead, which is also the local NRN here in South Africa. And they are offering EduRoam as part of their trust and identity services, Sapphire, and of course, ORCID. So this is to notice that this is becoming part of the offered service that NRNs can do for the research community or can offer. So this is like a call for all NRNs and all ASREN NRNs partners and members to explore what is ORCID, to get in touch if you need any kind of information or kind of, let's say, orientation regarding ORCID, and we are happy to collaborate more on this. And thank you very much. See you tomorrow for the workshop.
Thank you very much, Nabil. If you can. I lost the connection. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you now.
So next up is Iryna Kuchma, who will be talking about LIBSENSE Open Science Initiative.
Thank you so much. So LIBSENSE is a community initiative to support open science communities and also open science services.
Please welcome.
Sorry. Looks like there is a delay with the sound. Shall I go ahead? Apologies for interrupting you, Abdullahi. Sorry about that. So once again, LIBSENSE is building communities of practice for open science services and infrastructures in Africa. And it's a collaboration between regional and national RANs and library consortia. And we are happy to collaborate with regional RANs, ASREN, Ubuntu Net Alliance, WACRAN, also with Confederation of Open Access Repositories, GRNET, National Institute of Informatics in Japan, and University of Sheffield, who is helping with skills development. And of course, we are very happy to collaborate with open science community in Africa, and it's really good to see LIBSENSE members at this meeting today. Africa Connect project was already mentioned, and in this project there is a work package on skills development and open science awareness raising workshops with senior higher education institution management. There is also activity around infrastructure, lighthouse demonstrators, and federated identity management for libraries. So this is a project framework we're working with. And we started with templates for collaboration between RANs and National Library Consortia. As you saw today in a Q&A and in a chat, there are some areas where library consortia and RANs could collaborate. So we developed terms of reference for that. We also developed metadata guidelines for repositories and metadata and data exchange model agreements for harvesting repository content, aggregating repository content, and we also developed national and institutional open access and research data management policy templates, which are available in English and in French. And we conducted these activities as a result of a survey that took place in 3 African regions, and we also had workshops and focus group discussions to design the work plan. Now we have working groups. That's how we collaborate, and if you would like to join any of them or more than one, please do. So we have a working group on open science policies, governance and leadership. We also have a group on infrastructure, looking at open access journals, repositories for publications and data, and also open discovery services. We have a capacity building working group, and we have 2 region-specific and language-specific working groups for Arab states and for French-speaking African countries. We were very happy to release the statement, Open Science Africa Principles and Actions for Global Participation, which describes what we like to achieve and addresses existing inequalities in scholarly communication system. So this is a statement where we describe principles, equitable, global, long-term, non-commercial, open source, scalable and sustainable transformation of scholarly communication, and also collaborative community-based models and open public infrastructures for research. And we suggest principles for Africa-led and operated open infrastructures. We also address issues of indigenous traditional knowledge, and we recommend a set of 16 actions that institutions and countries could take to implement open science in Africa. In the infrastructure area, we collaborated on PED implementation use cases with Nabil and his colleagues on ORCID, how ORCID could be better integrated in repositories, open access journals. So we have software recommendations, use cases, promotional materials, also about integrating DOIs in repositories. We looked at current interoperability of African repositories and how it could be improved. And we're starting a pilot with La Referencia in Latin America, which is a network of repositories, to see how the experience could be adopted to an Arabic harvester of open access content. And we're also working in the area of free and open source open access publishing infrastructures. For skills and competencies, there were a series of workshops and discussions how skills profiles for the roles that you see on this slide could be built, how we can support research data management in libraries and in institutions, and also support other emerging roles, and we developed job profiles and discuss skill building around these areas, and we did this in English and in French. And our current activities around strategic framework and roadmap for open science in Africa, where we are describing principles, stakeholder roles and responsibilities, infrastructure and service requirements on local, discipline-specific, national, regional level, and also what are the necessary open science policy elements and national and institutional strategies to implement them. So you see LIBSENSE email, and if you'd like to join us, please do, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Iryna, for keeping the time. We have come to the conclusion of our session now, and I see a few questions in the Q&A box. The first one is from Diana Nasser, Library Director at Birzeit University in Palestine. The question is,
I think the question is to Salem. Salem, can you take the first question until Abdullah is connected?
Okay, so I have a number of questions that I have looked at in the chat box. So the first one is, how do we collaborate on the IEEE and Science Direct? I know it's not an easy task, but the approach that we're trying to work on within the Africa Connected 3 project is to collaborate with the ASRENs and discuss on their behalf that represent the institutions in the countries, how we can get some subscriptions to IEEE and Science Direct. So instead of having individual institutions having their own subscription to Science Direct and IEEE Explorer and other repositories, of course, but to have this more of economies of scale, as I mentioned before. So we would be approaching them, talking to them that we want to get some subscription that covers the Cluster 3 region as part of the Africa Connected 3 project. And of course, if we're successful, we want to expand this to the other countries in the ASREN region. So mainly in the UMID Connect. Hopefully, if we can get an extension for another phase, we would be including these activities in the UMID Connect 4 project that covers Palestine. But then we would learn our experience and how we can facilitate these kind of subscriptions. So we don't really know yet how are we going to deal or tackle this issue in terms of Science Direct, access to Science Direct and Explorer. So there are so many different scenarios that we want to explore, but we did not explore this yet unless we have the green light and the co-funding component that comes from the ASRENs. The second question is also from Mr. Shukri. And Mr. Shukri is asking, something similar. Is there an a European, similar to European Open Access Initiative in the Africa? This is in fact one of the activities that we're leading in the Africa Connected 3 project, which talks about the Africa Open Science. And so for the Open Science Cloud. So if we are, of course we are coordinating with Ognjen and his colleagues. We want to learn from them. And we want to identify several repositories. I like the approach that Rawia has been describing in terms of top-down approach that national governments try to identify repositories and sources that we can use as an integration to the Open Science platform. So still this is in progress that we want to collaborate with the EOSC and try to mitigate their experiences and benefit from their experiences in the African continent as part of the Africa Connected 3 project. Are we discussing with Science Direct and IEEE Explorer to facilitate their journals to be open access? The answer is no. I mean, they have their own open access journals. I asked a question to Kostas before saying that, if you are an author and you want to publish in, let's say, an IEEE open access journal, you have to pay quite a good of money. Sometimes, it reaches 2,000, 2,500 euros for one publication. Authors are not able to pay this unless they have funding sources or projects or research, or maybe their institutions can pay on their behalf. So the revenue streams go from the consumers to the producers. And I think this is still not a successful model yet. So there are, working with publishers, because many of them are just profit-making institutions and organizations. So, working with them is going to be a challenge, but we're trying to find out if we negotiate and if we work on behalf of the institutions across the continent, Africa, because we can provide the, that they are under privileged communities, that we can help them get access to these repositories if we're successful.
Okay. May I intervene and say, just make a comment here? Thank you, Salem, and very good to see you again. Yes, regarding this issue that you brought up in the chat earlier on, indeed, the so-called open access model with APCs, with article processing charges, may be quite expensive. It depends on the journal, but last week or 2 weeks ago, Nature announced about a price for open access of €9,500 per publication, which of course exorbitant, and it would be very few institutions or people would be able to pay. But this is not the only way. So we don't favor this route. I mean, this is just one way in which you can have your results, your publications open access. What we are saying is that it should be open access immediately. I mean, we're not saying we don't care how you do it, but it's the end result that matters more for us, that it should be open access and that the authors should retain the copyright or enough copyright to be able to make it open access. So, of course, you can do it, as you say, with gold open access paying article processing charges, but there are a number of publication venues, some of them very high quality, that are free. One such venue we are launching in the commission. It was one of my slides that I didn't have the time to show, which is called ORE, Open Research Europe, where all recipients, if you have one author in a publication, in a paper, who is recipient of Horizon 2020 or in the future Horizon Europe funding, you will be able to publish there for free. And it is de facto it satisfies all the open access requirements. And this is a model that an increasing number of funders are putting forward. So you have, or if you want, the so-called diamond open access, so publication as an infrastructure. So this is another way. And the third way is through traditional subscription model. You just publish as before, and you make available the authorized manuscript available in a repository. In this last way to do it, which is fully acceptable for us as well, the Coalition S that has developed the so-called rights retention strategy. So this is a strategy whereby they inform, and we inform publishers, all major publishers, that for as soon as you get a contract from the European Commission, from Wellcome Trust, from the British funders, from, there are many funders involved, then automatically you are obliged to immediately put a version of your manuscript open access. This means that you have a prior obligation or a prior license, and therefore whatever you sign with a publisher, cannot go against it. So, in other words, we see how this works next year. That takes effect, but basically it means that even if you go through a traditional way for a subscription publisher, as soon as you publish, you should be entitled to also put an AAM, a draft, your manuscript out there in the open in a repository. And this would be very good for us also as open access. You don't need to publish under the gold model with article processing charges. And so, therefore, everybody qualifies. There is a way for everybody, whether they have a rich institution or not a rich institution. Finally, let me say something about EOSC, because it was mentioned repeatedly. EOSC has its first General Assembly, this constitutive General Assembly tomorrow. There are right now, I think, about 200 or a bit more 200 organizations that want to become members. It accepts also application from observers. If you are outside the European Union and associated countries, then you have to be an observer. The participation fees are less for observers. I'm not sure how many they are, but I would strongly advise if you want to keep in touch with the latest developments and the development of the European Open Science Cloud itself, to be observers as an organization, your organization to be observers in EOSC.
Oh, great. So who do we contact to be an observer?
There is an EOSC secretariat, so I cannot give you now the address, but I'm sure that if you Google EOSC secretariat, then but I can send it to you. I can send it to you later on today.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we only have less than 5 minutes to conclude the session because we have another meeting. So Salem, if you can conclude the session, because Abdullah has a bad connection. And
I'm back.
If you are okay, then go ahead.
Dr. Yusuf, I'm back. This session has come to its conclusion now. I believe the questions have been answered. And I would like to hand over to you to conclude the sessions for today.
So thank you so much, Abdullahi, for your moderation. It's a great role. And this comes to a conclusion for our conference, the e-AGE20. So we're very happy to see you all participating in this very important annual conference that ASREN has been convening since 2010. It's a great pleasure to have all of the contributors coming and joining us and giving their insight presentations. Personally, I have learned so much from the presentations over the 2 days. And we are going to carry on the discussions and what we have benefited so far and the great initiatives that we're looking forward to expand and to create further collaboration in the ASREN region. As Yusuf said, it's been 10 years of challenges, but also opportunities as well. So we're looking forward to more collaboration. We would like to thank all the contributors, the sponsors for this conference, and we would like to thank the European Commission for their great contribution to the Arab region and to the African region, mainly for supporting ASREN and the UMID Connect and the Africa Connect for the many years. And a special thanks to GRNET as well, because they have been supporting us in many aspects, in many ways. So we are so grateful to their contributions. So again, thank you so much for this great conference. So we will have next tomorrow and the day after tomorrow workshops. So it's on the website. So please join us on the workshops. We're planning for our next year conference. So that would be e-AGE21. Hopefully it's going to be face-to-face or maybe blended. So Yusuf is suggesting Hamamat again, but we will see if that is going to be possible or not. But so it depends on the host and it depends on many parameters. Again, e-AGE2021 is going to be next year in December 2021. And we look forward to having all of you coming back again to the conference. And we would like to thank you for all of your contributions again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.